Hey, crypto kids, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Ben Way, who is the CEO of Digits.io. Ben, thank you very much for joining me today.
Good to be here.
Ben, where are we talking to you from today?
I'm in sunny Miami.
Ah, beautiful. I love Miami. Ben, let's start with an overview. What does Digits.io do?
So we've come up with a solution to really help people spend crypto. So Digits is all about turning existing debit and credit cards into crypto cards. So that simply means that you can come to our site, type in your credit card number, connect it to your, say, Coinbase account, and then when you swipe that card in a merchant, that transaction can actually be a crypto transaction. And then we have some magic on the back end that is very, very interesting, which turns that actually into a crypto loan and does some pretty cool things like lower your tax issue from a long-term taxable event into from a short-term taxable event into a long-term taxable event, saving you up to 30% of the transaction value, and also allowing you to pay off your transaction in fiat a year down the line. So it allows you to actually hedge against the market.
That's very cool. So you can arbitrage your crypto while you're at it.
Indeed, indeed. And it's, that part of it seems complex, but from a user's point of view, it's very, very simple.
What merchants currently allow the use of your card?
So our technology is in beta right now. So we've done an end-to-end test of the technology, but we're not fully launched yet.
I see. Okay, then what is the cost to use the card, and how does that paid for?
So one of the really nice things about the way we've put the structure of Digits together is that we use the existing Visa and MasterCard, what they call it the rails of Visa and MasterCard. We use existing rails of Visa, MasterCard, Amex, which means that there's actually quite a lot of transaction value that is actually pushed to the merchant. So we're trying to keep, my ideal goal is that the cost of the card is actually zero, and all the transaction costs come from the merchant eventually. But on our launch, we're thinking around 1% transaction fee, which obviously is very low compared to getting it out of an exchange or transacting in fiat.
Sure. What is the time it takes, let's say, just as an example, if let's say I buy a jeans on Lincoln Avenue there in Miami, and I use my crypto card, what's the latency between the time that the card actually transforms it into a crypto transaction and the time that the transaction is actually, its crypto value is determined against the network upon which you were actually going to buy and sell the crypto transaction?
It's a very good question. So when we came up with this fundamental concept of being able to turn any credit or debit card in the world into a crypto card, we still were then left with the two largest problems in crypto payments, which is volatility and network transmission time, which basically means that a merchant wants to get paid the amount they're expecting at the time they're expecting it, and we had to solve that problem. And we actually solved this by coming up with a new financial instrument called the Hedge Lending Network. And the Hedge Lending Network basically solves those two problems for us. So we actually take the risk out of the transaction from the merchant and put it into the Hedge Lending Network. So when you swipe that card in that jeans store, from the merchant's point of view, not only do they get exactly what they were expecting in fiat, in real time, but they also get it as a Visa or MasterCard transaction on their end. So from a merchant's point of view, they actually never know you're paying in crypto. We kind of process that before the transaction hits.
I see. And so in terms of compliance with, banking rules and money transferring rules, are you envisioning this being able to be regulated by, say, FINRA or FINTRAC?
Yeah, we are, and depending on the jurisdiction, we are required to comply with a number of and compliance issues like PCI compliance, et cetera, et cetera. However, we're very lucky that we come from a payments background. We come from a traditional payments processor that already processes millions and millions of dollars for on Visa, MasterCard networks. So we know that regulatory environment very well. And I think that's the kind of important thing to note, how we're quite different, is that a lot of crypto companies are kind of, basically saying, screw Visa, MasterCard, crypto can replace them. But we take a very different view, which is that Visa, MasterCard, and Amex have, these amazing networks that are, used for the majority of transactions, in the United States and the world. And we feel like we're the bridge between the Visa and MasterCard networks and the new crypto future. So we play very nicely with Visa and MasterCard, and our team comes from Visa, Apple Pay, PayPal. We know this market very well, and on a compliance level, we're pretty confident.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So then, how soon do you envision until this sort of platform is widely available in, let's say, starting in the United States?
Yeah, so we're actually around 6 months ahead of where we thought we would be on the technology. We've now proven the end-to-end transaction of the technology, and we've also got the hedge lending network platform operational, which actually you can go and have a play with at hedgelendingnetwork.com. Obviously, at the moment, it uses demonstration data, but it's an actual real functioning marketplace, and we believe it is the first real-time lending marketplace in the world. And so we're pretty proud of that. So, in terms of timelines, we expect our launch for the technology around September, but that will be beta, and then we expect early next year to really roll out the technology fully.
Interesting. And you're financing all this through an ICO?
Indeed we are. The ICO process has been an incredible journey. I've been raising capital for almost over 20 years. I've raised capital traditionally, friends and family, venture, late venture, crowdfunding, venture crowdfunding. So the ICO process has been a fascinating process. I think it is a model that will become a future way of raising capital for early stage companies. I certainly wouldn't say that it's the easy way to raise capital, especially not now. It is, you have to put a lot of time, effort, and thought into everything you're doing, especially on the legal and compliance side. We treat our ICO as a public company. I treat this company as a public company because it is, a publicly available security. And we treat all our tokens as securities, and we're trying to do it properly, trying to build a really long-term, valuable company.
Right.
That's what we're aiming for.
So is your ICO under the purview of the SEC at this point?
Well, I mean, certainly in the sense that it's a security, and the SEC regulate all securities. We very much see ourselves as a security as the SEC does. We have, an incredible law firm and our lead lawyer is an SEC expert. Everything we're doing is very transparent and open and traceable, and we're like everyone, explaining that investment is not without risk, and that you should always be very careful before investing in anything, and certainly never invest more than you can afford to lose without any impact on your life whatsoever. I sometimes joke with investors that if they, considering investing in anything, not just an ICO, but an early stage company, if you're not prepared to go and put that cash in the middle of your garden and set light to it, then you probably shouldn't invest. Early stage companies are high risk; they fail, and a lot of people talk about, well, 80% of ICOs fail, and I'm like, well, that's quite incredible, given that about 97% of all small, medium-sized businesses fail at some point. So you've got to look at the wider picture in that sense. But, on the other side, if you have capital and you want to see outsized returns, then ICOs are a good possible route to that outcome.
Sure. Finally, Ben, I'd be interested in asking you, so you're raising capital to fund this venture through an ICO, which means that investors put up crypto, correct?
Crypto or capital, it can be fiat. I mean, actually, a lot of money does come in through fiat, but yes, we get a lot of crypto as well.
So, have you found the requirement to convert crypto into fiat currency to fund operations, or are you getting a sufficient ratio of fiat currency that has not been an issue?
No, certainly that is an issue, and it will become more of an issue. We're in pre-ICO, so we've raised a good chunk of capital, but once we start raising tens of millions, then if we hold that in crypto, that is a significant risk that we will want to de-risk.
Sure. Are you planning to do a listing as a publicly traded company in the United States?
As in terms of doing a IPO, or
well, like listing on NASDAQ. You can list without doing a public offering if you've already capitalized yourself.
Yeah, I mean, depending on which side of the crypto argument you sit. I mean, a lot of people say that the traditional the reason why ICOs exist and the reason why the ICO market exists is because it is a more efficient version of the public markets. However, obviously there is a huge amount of capital in the public markets, which will probably transition slowly over the next decade or so. But yeah, I mean, we would take that on advisement at the time of the market and the market conditions. But, an IPO at this point would be 5 years out.
Okay. So then if I was interested in participating in your ICO potentially as an investor, what assurances or what mechanisms are in place so that I am confident that you're not just raising capital and squandering it?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, quite frankly, is that you have to look at the project and you have to do your due diligence. Look at the team, look at the technology, look at, whether you feel the investment and the team can deliver the product they promised. That is the risk in any business, whether it be an ICO or a non-ICO or early stage startup. You have to take a risk, and that is why, unless you are prepared to lose the money, you should not invest. It's not because, in the best will in the world, businesses fail for reasons outside of their control. I've helped probably 200 businesses get to product market fit over the last 20 years. And I would say 30% of it's timing, 30% of it's luck, and 40% of it's skill. And pretty much all those things have to be right to get an amazing business and an outstanding business off the ground. And it's just part of the risk profile. From our ICO point of view, I think if you look at the team and you look at what we've built already, we have a compelling proposition that if successful, should deliver a lot of value to investors.
Okay, if I am an investor in a startup company that is regulated by public markets, in other words, that raises capital through the traditional market, and I'm only asking you this, I'm not trying to sort of pigeonhole you or corner you or anything, but I just want to know that, so in that respect, I have the benefit of the financial reporting mechanism to follow the progress of the company I invest in on a quarterly basis. Will you provide financial reporting to your investors?
Yes, absolutely. And what I think is really important to differentiate a public company, which is retail investors, which is much lower risk, incredibly lower risk, and treated very differently from the by the SEC because it is public retail money. And but what we're talking about, whether you invest in an ICO or an early stage startup, the risk is the same from a regulatory point of view. I have a fiduciary duty to every single shareholder or owner of value within my organization to do the best I can do for the company. That is true for any early stage startup, but that, unless you're investing in public companies, which is, I think, a very different risk profile, the risk, whether you invest in an ICO or an early stage startup, is exactly the same. The challenge is that the ICO market, because it's overheated recently, has created a lot of bad actors in the marketplace who have taken huge amounts of capital in the market.
Well, Ben, that's fascinating. We're going to leave it there for now. I thank you very much for your participation. We will come back to you in due course and follow the development of Digits.io throughout the year. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.